After studying this module, you shall be able to know about the different problems faced by the elderly, know about the provisions of the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act of 2007, understand about the protection of life and property of senior citizens, and learn about the powers of state and central government officials regarding the implementation of the Act. Although old age is an inescapable part of our human destiny, defining it has never been an easy task. It has always put many researchers and even common man in a fix, as there are several definitions and terms which can be used interchangeably. Old age is often seen as a picture of sickness, despair, dependability, disturbance and disappointment. The response of society towards aging and aged is complex. With modernization and urbanization, it has become more and more intricate. As the values of relationships are deteriorating, it has a great impact on aging. Elderly are now facing social isolation. Even the breaking of family systems like nuclear families is affecting the value of aged population. With modernization, the relatives and children are going far off for work. The status of aged in terms of economic earner goes down, and furthermore, if there is physical immovability, it adds on to the stress and despair. Elderly in India were always being taken care of by their family members. It was seen as an integral part of the fundamental social and cultural values of the Indian value system. However, due to urbanization, modernization, and the influence of the Western culture, children are opting for nuclear families. With most of the women joining the workforce, they find it difficult to take care of the elderly in the families, looking upon them as a burden. Many a times, they are employed away from their native places, and the elderly are left alone to fend for themselves. Most of the times, their basic needs are not met, and in some cases, they face abuse and exploitation. Many surveys have been conducted to see the state of the elderly in India. It has been found that 1 out of every 6 elderly persons does not receive proper nutrition. 1 out of every 3 elderly persons does not receive the necessary medical attention, and 1 out of the 2 elderly persons does not receive the respect and attention due to them. They end up feeling unwanted and marginalized. The Indian government has taken several initiatives to deal with the issue of the increasing number of the grey population. The government recognizes the rights of the elderly as their entitlements. Elderly rights are one of the fundamental rights in India. The International Day of the Elderly is observed on 1st of October. Though there is a provision in the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973 under which parents can claim maintenance from their children, but the procedure is long and expensive. It is desired that simple, inexpensive and speedy provisions may be made to claim maintenance by the suffering parents. Additionally, the elderly are not aware of all the rights available to them. The elder illiteracy regarding their rights is directly related to the infringement of their rights. Difficulties faced by the elderly. Care of health, both physical as well as mental. Nutritional problems have been found to be one of the basic physical problems. Loss of memory and decision-making ability are the major mental challenges of the elderly. Income and housing. Opportunities for post-retirement employment, transportation and housing are the basic requirements for the aged to continue living in a dignified manner. inhuman living conditions have been found to be a stark reality. Social networks. Poor social interaction with family and friends is a reality with a lot of elderly. Some of the aged, whose children have moved to distant places, feel alone and abandoned by their family members. One of the outcomes of social isolation is the loss of will to live in the elderly. Other issues. Other areas of concern are lack of opportunity for leisure activities, inability to move around due to physical and other form of limitations, consumer protection, protection from manipulation from known and unknown persons, and access to relevant information. National efforts for the elderly. Due to the difficulties faced by the elderly, various national efforts have been made to protect the interests of the elderly. Constitution of India, Directive Principles of State Policy, Article 41 states that the state shall, within the limits of its economic capacity and development, make effective provisions for old age, sickness and disablement, and in other cases of underserved want. Code of Criminal Procedure, Chapter 9, Section 125 requires persons having sufficient monetary means to take care of their parents if the latter are unable to take care for themselves. Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act of 1956 in Section 20 requires Hindu sons and daughters to maintain their elderly parents when parents are unable to maintain themselves. Maintenance of parents and senior citizens. Recently, the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act was approved by the Union Cabinet. The Government of India has come forward with the formulation of the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act of 2007. This Act provides for more effective provisions for maintenance and care of parents and other senior citizens by their children and relatives who inherit the property of the aged. This Act applies to the people of whole of India except the state of Jammu and Kashmir. It is applicable to all citizens of India, those living in India as well as abroad. The different aspects of the Act are clearly defined. Maintenance in the Act includes provision for food, clothing, residence and medical care. Children include son, daughter and grandchildren but does not include a minor. Parent means father or mother, whether biological, adoptive or step-parents, whether or not the mother is a senior citizen. Property means property of any kind, whether movable or immovable, ancestral or self-acquired, tangible or intangible, and includes rights or interest in such property. Relative means any legal heir of the childless senior citizen who is not a minor and is in possession of or would inherit his property after his death. Senior citizen means any person being a citizen of India who has attained the age of 60 years or above and includes whether or not a senior citizen. Prescribed means prescribed by rules made by the state government under this Act. State government in relation to a union territory means the administrator thereof appointed under Article 239 of the Constitution. Tribunal means the maintenance tribunal constituted under Section 7. Welfare means provisions for food, health care, recreation center and other amenities necessary for the senior citizens. Key features of the Act. The Act has taken into account three areas: maintenance, care and protection. Maintenance in the Act includes financial maintenance, health maintenance, protection of life and person, as well as recreation and spiritual needs. Care of the elderly include housing requirement, clothing requirement, health requirement and companionship requirement. Protection covers protection of life and property of the old against exploitation, including physical and mental abuse. A senior citizen, including parents, who is unable to maintain themselves from their earning or out of the property owned by him against one or more children, not being a minor, and in the case of a childless couple, against his relative who would inherit his property, shall be entitled to make an application for maintenance. It is the obligation of the children or relative to maintain the elderly so that the senior citizen may lead a normal life. The Act empowers the tribunal to make monthly allowance during the pendency of the proceedings. The application for the monthly allowance should be disposed within 90 days. If the children or relatives neglect the elderly, the tribunal may order the monthly maintenance allowance up to 10,000 rupees. A senior citizen aggrieved by the decision of the tribunal has the right to prefer an appeal to the appellate tribunal within 60 days from the date of the order of the tribunal. The tribunal shall make endeavour to decide the appeal within 1 month from the date of filing of appeal. The state government shall designate the district social welfare officer or an officer not below the rank of a district social welfare officer as maintenance officer, who shall represent a parent, if he so desires, before a tribunal or an appellate tribunal. Establishment of old age homes. The state government may establish old age homes, retirement homes, or recreational and educational centers for the elderly at accessible places in a phased manner for poor senior citizens. Further, it provides that the state government may prescribe a scheme for management of old age homes, including the standards and various types of services to be provided by them, which are necessary for medical care and means of entertainment to the inhabitants of such homes. Most of the old age homes have facilities like medical attention, yoga clubs, fitness clubs, parks, spiritual sessions, and indoor games. The most recent club to be added to many old age homes is the Laughter Club. Provision of medical support to senior citizens. The state government shall ensure that the government hospitals or hospitals partially or fully funded by the government shall provide beds for all senior citizens when required. There shall be separate queue for elderly people. There shall be facilities for treatment of chronic, terminal and degenerative diseases. Research activity for chronic disease shall be expanded. There shall be earmarked facilities for geriatric patients in every district hospital, duly headed by a medical officer with experience in geriatric care. Protection of life and property of senior citizens. The state government shall take responsibility to give wide publicity through print media and television and radio at regular intervals about the provision of the Act. The state government and officers of the central government, including the police officers, are given awareness training and sensitization on the issues relating to this Act. There shall be effective coordination between the services provided by the concerned ministry or departments dealing with health, law and home affairs to address the issues relating to the welfare of the elderly. The state government may give such powers and impose duties on a district magistrate, and he specify the officers subordinate to him who shall exercise all or any of the powers and perform all the duties regarding the welfare of the elderly. The state government shall give a comprehensive action plan for providing protection of life and property of senior citizens. If a senior citizen, after the commencement of the provisions of the Act, transfers his property by way of a gift or otherwise with the condition that the transferee shall provide him the basic amenities and physical needs. If transferee fails to provide such amenities and physical needs, the said transfer of property shall be declared void by the tribunal. It further provides that if any senior citizen is incapable of enforcing the rights, action may be taken on his behalf by any of the voluntary associations registered under the Societies Registration Act of 1860 or any other law for the time being in force. Cognizance of offences. Any person responsible for care or protection of any senior citizen intentionally abandons a senior citizen shall be liable for punishment of imprisonment up to 3 months or with fine up to Rs 5,000. No suit or other legal proceedings shall lie against the central government, the state government or the local authority or any other officer of the government in respect of anything done in good faith or intended to be done in pursuance of this Act, and any rules or orders made thereunder. The central government may give directions to state government as to carrying into execution of the provisions of this Act. It may make periodic review and monitor the progress of the implementation of the provisions of this Act by the state government. Implications and limitations of the Maintenance Law. The Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act seeks to make it a legal obligation for children and heirs to provide maintenance to senior citizens. It also permits state government to establish old age homes in every district. Senior citizens who are unable to maintain themselves shall have the right to apply for maintenance. Tribunals seeking monthly allowance from their children or heirs. A childless senior citizen can claim maintenance from his relative who is in possession of or would inherit the senior citizen's property. State government is to constitute maintenance tribunals at the subdivisional level to decide the level of maintenance. Appellate tribunal may be established at the district level. If a senior citizen is capable of making an application himself, any other person or registered voluntary organization authorized by him or her can file the application on his behalf. State governments are also to designate the district social welfare officer or an equivalent officer as maintenance officer, who can then represent a parent on request before a maintenance or appellate tribunal. Maintenance tribunals can award up to Rs 10,000 per month as maintenance allowance payable to the senior citizen by his child or relative. They have to decide an application for maintenance within 90 days. Transfer of property by senior citizen in favor of a child or relative done after the commencement of the Act can be declared void by the tribunal in case of negligence by child or relative in looking after the senior citizen. Appeal against an order of a maintenance tribunal can be filed with the district level appellate tribunal. Parties cannot be represented by legal practitioners before maintenance or appellate tribunals. Abandonment of a senior citizen is punishable with imprisonment up to 3 months or fine up to 5,000 rupees or both. Drawbacks of the Act. Though the Act's genuine concern for the senior citizens cannot be overlooked, the Act has the following demerits also. The tribunal is not manned by a person with a judicial qualification or acumen or experience. It is not known how they will adjudicate into the matter in accordance with the procedure followed by a civil court. Complete exclusion of the professional lawyers from the purview of the tribunal simply defies logic and reasoning. The Act entrusts the entire responsibility of establishing tribunals, enacting rules, etc. to the concerned state. The presiding officer of the tribunal has no power of discretion in awarding the maintenance amount, and the power is vested with the state government. Imposing liability on a person who happens to be a relative of the senior citizen on the ground that he will inherit the property of the senior citizen is illogical and unreasonable, because the senior citizen may sell his property to any third party before his death, and there is no guarantee that the relative will definitely inherit the property of the senior citizen. It seems that most of the state governments are not serious in implementing the provisions of the Act, and only a few states like Andhra Pradesh have so far come forward to notify the Act in their Gazette. The Act does not address the needs of those parents who do not possess any property. Therefore, in order to implement the Act more effectively and render justice speedily, the central government should come forward to remove the above mentioned drawbacks. Otherwise, the real purpose of enacting the above Act to rescue the senior citizens may not be fulfilled. Summary: defining old age has never been an easy task. It has always put many researchers and even common person in fix, as there are several definitions and terms which can be used interchangeably. In India, the elderly have usually been cared for by their family members. This is one of the fundamental social values of the Indian value system. However, modernization and influence of the Western culture has made this difficult for both the children as well as the parents. Many times, the children move to distant places for education or for employment, and the elderly are left alone to fend for themselves. The Indian government has taken several steps to deal with the increasing number of the abandoned grey population. The most recent one is the formulation of the Maintenance and Welfare of Parents and Senior Citizens Act, approved in 2007. This Act is applicable to all Indians, whether living in India or abroad. However, this Act is not applicable to people from Jammu and Kashmir. According to this Act, a senior citizen, including parents who are unable to maintain themselves from their earning, it becomes the obligation of their children or relative to maintain the elderly so that the senior citizen can live a normal life. The parents can demand up to Rs 10,000 per month for their needs. The state government may establish old age homes, recreational and educational centers for the elderly at accessible places. Most old age homes have facilities like medical facilities, yoga and fitness clubs, parks, spiritual sessions and indoor games. The state government and officers of the central government, including police officers, go through sensitization training on issues related to the Maintenance Act. The state government is expected to give a comprehensive plan of action for providing protection of life and property of senior citizens. Any person responsible for care of a senior citizen intentionally abandons the elderly person shall be liable for punishment of imprisonment up to 3 months or fine up to Rs 5,000. However, although the Act has been formulated out of genuine concern for the senior citizens, the Act does have its drawbacks, especially in its implementation.